great to be able to show the rest of the team, the people who really are doing all of this great work. I just get to share that information with you. So as you are aware, our focus is to drive economic impact through visitation year round. And we all know how important the winter visitors are, especially. So I'm going to begin by introducing Erin Rafalowski. Erin is our Director of Marketing, and she's going to bring us through some of the work that the marketing team has been accomplishing.
Thanks, Peggy. We are going to jump right in with traffic to visitithaca.com. Website analytics really consistently provide us with the metrics for tracking our marketing activity. Most figures in this report, you'll note, are year over year. However, you will see the line graph provides a comparison of 2019, 2020, and 2021. So I'd really like to note that in May of 2021, we began to outpace our 2019 website sessions, and that really remains strong throughout the rest of the year. And as Peggy said, we're focused on year-round visitation and encouraging people to extend their stays, but we really do know winter visitors are especially important to attract. So a few other notes on this, the total traffic increased 27% over 2020, and organic search traffic increased by 23%. Organic sessions to the blog post, I'm going to move now into page 8 of your packet. Organic sessions to blog posts increased 58% over last year, indicating that we're really providing the information that people are searching for. And you also note that 2 of our most popular blog posts are related to winter activities. We really strive to remain a strong authority on Google for things to do in general in Ithaca. And our website also connects people to our tourism partners and attractions and accommodations directly. So the referrals to partners are direct click-throughs to partner websites via mostly listings on visitithaca.com. And now I'm going to move into the visitor geographics. So you will find that on page 10 of the overall packet. And we track and review visitors to visitithaca.com, as well as the walk-in traffic to our visitor centers. And this data is always particularly interesting. We really could take up a few more pages in the packet just of the traffic. But I want to note that 2021 really saw a significant growth in website sessions from outside of the local region, especially the New York City DMA, and that includes northern New Jersey and quite a big radius. Other significant areas that we saw an increase were Philadelphia, which was actually up 29% from 2019 and 21% from 2020. Buffalo remains really strong, as well as the DC area. Ithaca and Tompkins County's position as a destination with abundant public outdoor spaces definitely served us well in 2021. And I also want to note that the initial planning for a full website redesign did begin in 2021, and we'll really continue most of that work this year. So in considering our marketing strategy and messaging, we're always looking at how we can reach people at different stages of their travel planning journey, from inspiration to assisting with actual booking and even sharing their experiences after they're here. So now Jordan Herson, our marketing and communications specialist, will share some examples of our initiatives, and then you'll hear more about our paid campaigns and media outreach.
Hi everyone, thanks Erin. On page 12 is where we focus on growing our social engagement, and we were able to see significant growth in our Instagram following. We increased 22% from 2020, which brought us just under 16,000 followers. Our marketing strategy included utilizing Instagram features such as stories, guides, and reels, and creating meaningful and consistent content. We provided tips and tricks, behind-the-scene videos, and stories for attractions, accommodations, and outdoor recreation. We also were able to reach 800,000 people on Facebook through a mixture of inspirational and sharing user-generated content of when people are actually visiting Ithaca. And across all social media platforms, we introduced a weekly pairing series, and that featured different places to get food or beverages, and we paired it with a nearby activity for someone to experience. Through this series, we were able to highlight 60 different partners, and we reached about 270,000 people. On page 13, we get into the Visit Ithaca Waterfalls Challenge. This project, we began planning the digital pass in early summer. We took different difficulty levels and accessibility into account. And as we built out the pass, we received input from Kelly with Finger Lakes Land Trust, Josh from New York State Parks, and Todd from the Cornell Botanic Gardens. We launched the program the first week of October and had nearly 900 pass signups by the end of the year, with 838 different check-ins to the locations and 18 people completing the challenge. And the goal of this pass was really to encourage repeat visitation, especially during the winter months, by making it easy for visitors to discover new places. The first person who finished the challenge was a woman from Ohio. She participated with her husband, and they enjoyed finding new hiking and biking trails such as the Sapsucker Woods. And I'm going to pass it back over to Erin now. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. So here you'll see some examples of our campaigns and advertising. This Spring Retreat to Ithaca campaign led with waterfalls and wide open spaces. And then we carried the waterfall messaging into winter with a wonderland of waterfalls. We know our spring and late fall, early winter campaign combined resulted in at least 173 room bookings for leisure travelers during non-peak travel time. And this was all based on the tracking from Sojourn. Paid partnerships have really become a strong strategy in destination marketing. One example is Visit Ithaca specifically worked with a couple different video content creators with established audiences to continue to really build brand awareness. Some other examples you'll see here, we did some underwriting with Buffalo Area Public Media and also some podcast underwriting with Heritage Radio Network. Both outlets have well-established audiences that really match our previous demographic studies very well. And continuing on to Cider, really continuing to build the brand and leverage the grant from New York State. Although you could say people are not necessarily traveling specifically for craft cider, it's one of those niche offerings that really enhances the sense of place when people are here visiting. So with 10 craft cideries and a 30-minute drive, Ithaca is really an epicenter of craft cider. And we do lead with that messaging. And hearing from our cider makers, they really wanted to be able to promote the connection to the Finger Lakes region and differentiating the style of cider that's made here. So much of our work also involved connecting with established audiences. We hosted travel and food beverage writers in early November and intentionally invited people with outsider familiarity so they could really feel like they were discovering something. And the media fam, we treated the media fam very much like wine writers visiting. And it began with a visit to the Honeybee Embassy, and then actually it ended with a multi-course pairing dinner at Cultivare. I also want you to note the travel and leisure article here, that was in print and digital, and that actually featured not only our local cideries, but many of our local photographers as well. And you will continue to see one of the capstone projects is an FLX CDR seal and branding that will talk more about the kind of quality and styles of ciders here. So you'll continue to see that. I would like to now introduce Rob Montana, Communications Manager, and he will talk through some of our public relations and earned media successes in 2021.
Thanks, Erin. Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see on page 18 of your packet, we responded to 57 media requests in 2021. There are also a few highlights of publications and coverage that we did receive from those 57 requests. Other than seasonal interests, much of the focus was on post-COVID travel and traveling with safety. And fortunately, we are well positioned to serve those visitors, largely because of our outdoor attractions and also because we are we've been very safety conscious community. making people feel safe to travel here. Highlighting that was a Forbes article in May that called our area one of the best places to travel post-COVID, which was pretty great to have. After a predictably quiet 2020, we did begin assisting writers and influencers. For example, Troy Pettenbrink, who is known on Instagram as Gay Traveler, by providing itinerary suggestions and other connecting them with other attractions that we have in our area for them to visit, and received coverage as a result of that. We hosted a few people from New York City during Cider Week, and then in November, as Aaron noted, we hosted a group of writers with a focus on our cider. And that cider trip actually resulted in some quick turnarounds. We had a few articles and a video feature with one of our local chefs, Felicia Barrett from Monks on the Commons, talking about local cider and food. And it's really important to point out that a quick turnaround like that it's nice, but it's not typical. A lot of our work with media results in coverage months later. And really the idea is that we're building ongoing and long-term relationships with media, so we can see continuing returns as opposed to like a one-off, here's an article type situation. And a perfect illustration of that is a writer that we engaged with in 2019. They were actually our only media visitor in 2020. And then in 2021, the Ithaca Children's Garden was featured prominently in a Good Housekeeping article. So it's just an example of how we have built and maintained relationships as the years go on. And finally, we've been focusing on this. We've been focusing on it and continue to focus on developing relationships with diverse content creators that will help us reach new markets and shape our approach to attracting new visitors. One example of that is an interabled couple that had visited the area. They had posted video coverage of their visits to area attractions, a lot of waterfalls, a lot of natural spaces. And we reached out to them and talked to them. They provided us some of their insights on accessibility of our attractions. And we've talked to them about connecting when they come back for future visits for, additional coverage. And so that's an example of the work that we're doing now. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Jody LaPierre. She is our Director of Visitor Experience.
Thanks, Rob. I also want to take a moment and introduce Ryan Shehu and Rachel Atkins-Walpole from our visitor experience team. They are both site supervisors for our visitor centers. But during 2021, we were able to bring back our part-time staff members, which was really exciting. We also found a way to make Ithaca Loves Teachers happen in a safe environment. We saw record numbers at the Overlook at Titanic, which Rachel will talk about in a little bit. We also expanded the days that we were open at our downtown visitor center, and we saw our virtual Ithaca 101s continue to really take off. So going back to Ithaca Loves Teachers, we realized early on that our local businesses really needed the business, but there was no doubt that teachers needed the appreciation, but we also needed to have them socially distance. So we looked to bringing on a digital pass and went to Bandwango. So we transitioned to that digital pass. It turned out to be really successful. We had over 1,400 signups and 2,000 redemptions, as well as 140 local businesses participate in that. I'm going to send it over to Rachel to talk a bit about our traffic at the Overlook at Titanic.
Jody. So the 2021 season up at Titanic Visitor Center shattered the record set back in 2019 for walk-in visitors, with over 48,000 visitors in total, increasing our walk-in traffic by 35% over the pre-pandemic numbers. May through July last year, numbers were almost twice of that from the same time period back in 2019. And downtown visitors, walk-ins, off-site events, and visitor phone calls were all saw an increase over the 2020 levels.
Thanks, Rachel. Our website chat service also proved to be very helpful in identifying topics for our marketing department so that they could make our website more responsive to visitor needs, whether it was adding or updating information or creating new blog posts. That information really helped them connect with visitors. But during 2021, we had over 1,800 chats. Most of the topics of interest were around waterfalls, gorges, lodging, events, outdoor recreation, and Ithaca Loves Teachers, a lot of the usual suspects that we see. I'm going to send it over to Ryan to talk a bit about our virtual Ithaca 101 programs.
Thank you, Jody. So in 2021, the Visitor Experience Department, we offered 21 virtual programs of our Ithaca 101 class for Cornell and Ithaca College, with over 1,500 attendees to those programs. Late in 2021, we held a virtual Ithaca 101 demonstration for 25 Cornell University grad school employees. From that demonstration, we had 6 classes booked for the by the end of the year, and several more were reaching out to solidify additional dates. The team was able to get back in person at offsite events, and we were able to attend 5 offsite events with a combined total of over 3,200 attendees at those events. Pass it back to Jody.
Thanks, Ryan. Also in the spring of last year, I Love New York had launched an accessibility survey tool that our visitor experience team picked up on, and a couple of our team members are reaching out to partners to identify experiences that are available for visitors of all abilities. The information will be shared with I Love New York. They've got a whole section that covers accessibility on their website. But as Erin mentioned earlier, as we eye our website redesign through 2022, that information will be really valuable to put on there. One of the other things that we realized late last spring was so many of our tourism partners had really changed the way they operated, certainly in 2020 and then also in 2021. So we found a great need to get people together to talk about what those operations were going to look like this year. So we focused primarily on the downtown area and the Trumansburg area, but invited the Trumansburg businesses, the Downtown Ithaca Alliance, the Discovery Trail partners, and also the state parks. This really proved helpful for people to share information of how they were operating that summer, which gave us the opportunity to move visitors around, which created a much better experience for visitors so that our partners knew what was open and could transfer visitors to each other. I'm going to pass it back to Peggy to talk about our conference center.
If it feels like we're talking at 100 miles an hour, it's hard to cram 12 months worth of work into this amount of time. So the conference center, you've all heard about the conference center throughout the years, and 2021, it felt like we were making some really serious progress. Some of the work that we saw completed was the Local Development Corporation expanded its board. All of those multi-party agreements, it's a very complicated project. And so agreements between the city and with the management company and the Chamber Foundation working on behalf of a hotel conglomeration, all the parties, all those things were signed and executed and ready to roll. Also, the bonding was secured so that we were able to move forward. And I think the grant from New York State, that was a pretty complicated process. And I do want to do a call out to Jennifer for walking us and getting us to the finish line on that $5 million grant from New York State as well for the project. And to me, the most visible piece was, hey, they demolished the Green Street Garage. It's no longer there. And then in September of 2021, there was a groundbreaking ceremony with the golden shovels and all the fun. And so we are moving forward and looking forward to being able to sell that more actively. And in September of 2021, in collaboration with our hotel partners, we were at SA Trade Show, the Empire State Society of Association Executives, doing the big unveil of coming soon in, well, at that time we were saying September of 2023, the new Ithaca Downtown Conference Center. And now I'd like to introduce Sarah Imes, who is our tour and travel manager, and Sarah will share some additional work by the sales team.
Thank you, Peggy. The sales department at Visit Ithaca is made up of 2 individuals, myself as tour and travel manager and Lisa Connerton as the meeting and conference sales manager. Under the umbrella of the chamber, the main goal of the sales department is essentially to put heads in beds in Ithaca and Tompkins County. The Ithaca sales department works in various ways to promote Ithaca and Tompkins County as a destination to social and wedding groups, domestic motor coach, international group and independent travelers, meeting and conference groups, and sports market. We field requests for proposals from potential clients in surrounding markets, and we send them out as leads to our local hotels and meeting venues to bid on. The success of our sales efforts comes from our focus on relationship building, which we accomplish through several different channels, meeting and networking with clients at trade shows, and then the following up with them afterwards, hosting familiarization tours and site inspections, collaboration with local partners in surrounding counties and destinations. It usually takes multiple touch bases to build rapport and potentially many more before we can actualize a piece of business. Many groups are planning 1 to 5 years out, so a client meeting today may not result in a booking for another 5 to 10 years. For example, a tour operator that I took on a familiarization tour back in 2013 is just now bringing a group to Ithaca. The first half of the year, believe it or not, is the busiest time of year for the sales team, with attendance at various trade shows and sales missions. In 2021, we completed a combined 90 appointments from virtual and in-person trade shows for both the domestic and international markets. Visit Ithaca was represented at a meeting planner client lunch and at the Empire State Society of Association Executives, as Peggy mentioned, for the meetings market. And we also work to increase international awareness of our destination by leveraging our partnership with the Wine, Waters, and Wonders Collaborative. Back to Peggy.
And I would also like to thank Ladybug, who we heard singing in the background. She is our pet-friendly ambassador, and you may have seen her at various locations. I know, Alexis, you've met Ladybug at your hotel. So obviously a lot of our work and what you hear about typically is all of our outward facing work, inviting visitors, whether they travel individually or as groups. But a lot of the work we do also is behind the scenes, and that's advocating. We need to make sure that we're bringing those important issues forward on the state, local, and national level. And a few of the advocacy components that I'd like to just call out is work towards getting PPP for 501c6 organizations. That was really critical to, quite frankly, the survival of the CVB, for us to be able to bring team members back, to be able to expand our capacity to work on behalf of this community. Another item is the designation of the Finger Lakes region as a National Heritage Area. That is something we've been working on for 10 years in partnership with Finger Lakes Tourism Alliance, and it will bring so much more opportunity to our county if our region is designated. We also worked on short-term rental legislation in the town of Ithaca. We've also been working statewide on that activation, workforce development funding locally and statewide. And also the Tompkins Together campaign. Again, you've heard about this in previous meetings. As you all know, many of you know who are on the front lines, once people were able to travel again, the perception and the expectation was the same level of service, even though all of us in our businesses did not have the same level of staffing. And so the Tompkins Together program was a collaboration with the Tompkins Chamber, the Downtown Ithaca Alliance, to just remind folks that we want to give you excellent service and we want to take good care of you. But oftentimes the person who is greeting you and seating you might also be cooking your food these days because everyone is short-staffed. And to just be kind and be patient. And remember, that's what vacations are all about, is to relax and recharge your batteries and to have an enjoyable experience. So those are some of the advocacy components that were things that I wanted to just remind you all. As I mentioned at the beginning, you see me frequently, but it is this team that does a lot of the work, most of the work. And we have one other team member who has joined us today, and that is Cloud Kelly. And Cloud, if you don't mind, give her a little wave. While we had in our 2021 budget funds to do some agri-culinary tourism microgrants, we did not have the staffing capacity for the majority of the year. So Cloud joined us late in the year. She jumped right in with both feet to get that program updated, streamlined, and I'm very thrilled to be able to share that that grant application and announcement is out the door. And so some of you may have already received notification about it. And if you haven't, we'll be happy to share that with you. And Cloud is the person who's managing all of that work. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And thank you for your investment and confidence in the Visit Ithaca team. We truly appreciate the opportunity to be able to share our work and report on our work, but especially to be able to bring economic impact to our county. So if anyone has any questions, we're happy to entertain them now if you feel more comfortable asking later. And I yield to the chair in case we're over time.
Not at all. We're doing great on time. Thank you so much, Peggy, and your whole team. It's a nice reminder to see a report like this to really wrap our heads and arms around just how many different directions your organization is going at all times. And